Welcome back to Savage Showdowns. This week we are returning to the battle arena. This week in the battle arena, we have a Megalania facing off against a Utahraptor. But first, if you like this content, please give it a like and consider subscribing. It's free, and it really helps the channel out. I will preface this fight by saying the Megalanias will be given the same venomous bite that Komodo dragons are known to have. This is already believed to be true by most scientists, though it can't be confirmed due to the fact that Megalania is extinct. However, we will operate under the assumption that this is true, since I believe it'll lead to a more interesting fight. So, let's take a look at Megalania. Size. Estimates for the size of the Megalania vary dramatically, ranging from an 11.5 to 23 feet long, and with weights ranging from 215 to 4,000 pounds. Some of these numerics are a lot more believable than others, in my opinion. So for our fight, we will use a 20-foot, 2,200-pound individual. Strength. I couldn't find any exact measurements for the Megalania's bite force, but I assume that it operated similar to that of a Komodo dragon, given their close phylogenetic relationship. It likely had a weaker bite force, more designed to utilize serrated cutting teeth than unleashing raw crushing power. Similarly, it also likely had a powerful tail capable of whipping, as most modern monitor lizards do, as well as powerful forearms for digging and grappling with others of its kind. Speed. Megalanias were believed to have a top speed of around 6.7 miles per hour. Stealth. Similar to Komodo dragon, Megalania likely lied in wait and ambushed prey, since it was slow and had to rely on a high degree of stealth to get its initial bite in. Weapons and armor. For weapons, the Megalania had its bite force coupled with serrated teeth and a venomous bite. The venom was an anticoagulant that would keep wounds bleeding and may have helped to activate shock proteins, which would further weaken prey. It also had claws that were several inches long, attached to powerful forearms that could both dig and grapple. Finally, it had a large tail that could whip with a stinging force. I will note that the description of the venom I just gave is for Komodo dragon venom, since we don't know the method by which Megalania venom operated. However, it's fair to assume its closest living relative's venom operated in a similar fashion. For armor, the Megalania had its raw size, a semi-robust skeleton, some interlocking scales that operated similar to medieval chainmail. So how does the Utahraptor stack up? Size. The Utahraptor was believed to be 19 to 23 feet long, 5.5 to 6.5 feet tall, and weigh in at around 1,000 to 1,100 pounds. It is much bulkier than most other dromaeosaurs and is the largest known raptor. Strength. Exact estimates for Utahraptor's bite force range from 650 to 1,000 psi, and while this is a large range, in truth it doesn't matter as much as it normally would. This is because the Utahraptor's primary weapon, or at least its believed primary weapon, was its claws on its feet, and it was capable of kicking these with enough strength to leave deep, long gashed wounds in prey. Speed. Utahraptors could likely run at speeds in the 25 to 30 mile per hour range, their large size making them slower than some other smaller raptors, but still able to run down prey. They were also likely not as good as jumping as their smaller cousins, but were still capable. Stealth. As an intelligent pack hunter, Utahraptor likely employed ambush tactics that relied on stealth, in turn implying a high degree of stealth for each individual. Weapons and armor. For weapons, Utahraptor had several 1 to 2 inch teeth that could be coupled with its bite force, which had a questionable magnitude. It also had its primary weapon of its toe claw, which grew to be 9.5 inches long and could inflict incredibly dangerous and devastating wounds. Finally, it had its intelligence, and it was believed to be very intelligent. However, the estimates for this intelligence level range from being as intelligent as modern birds to that of some mammals. Regardless, it was smarter than the Megalania and capable of some level of problem solving. In terms of armor, Utahraptor had its size, feathers, scalation, and a semi-robust skeleton capable of enduring some damage, but likely not as much as that of other larger theropods. So those are our two fighters, but who wins? Let's find out. Our arena for this fight will be an open plain with patches of foliage, similar to what was seen in our hyena vs Komodo dragon video. Our Megalania is laying in the grass, warming itself in the sun, while also waiting patiently for any prey to walk by. Nearby are Utahraptors stalking through the undergrowth, looking for any prey that it can find. The Utahraptor stalks around, making just enough noise to alert the lizard of its existence, but not enough to give it away its location. The Utahraptor eventually, by chance, finds the Megalania laying in the grass. The dinosaur not entirely sure what it's looking at. It stalks closer still, and the Megalania becomes fully aware of its presence. The Megalania spins around and attempts to bite the dromaeosaur. The Utahraptor, despite being caught off guard, is able to quickly react and jump out of the way. The raptor begins circling the lizard, looking for any opening to jump on it. It quickly finds one, and jumps on, its toe claw digging in despite the lizard's tough armor. The Megalania, however, is low to the ground and is able to quickly perform a rolling maneuver similar to a crocodile's death roll and force the Utahraptor to jump off. The raptor begins to circle again, looking for another opening. It once again finds one, jumps on, and digs its claw in. Again, the Megalania rolls, and the Utahraptor leaps off. This time, however, the Megalania responds with a quick follow-up and manages to bite the dromaeosaur on the lower leg, its serrated teeth cutting and inducing a steady bleed. The raptor ignores the wound, thinking it minor, and responds by kicking the much larger lizard in the face with its other foot, taking out an eye and causing some severe damage. The raptor, being an intelligent animal, does its best to hide in the now blind side of the Megalania, waiting for an opening. Eventually, one emerges, and the raptor digs its claw into the side of the lizard, cutting deep despite the scaly armor and exposing the lizard's intestines. The lizard responds with a powerful kick of its rear leg, cutting into the raptor with its claws. Despite this, the Megalania begins to slow down, blood loss and exposed intestines wearing it down. The Utahraptor capitalizes on this and jumps on the head of the now extinct lizard. It sinks its toe claw into the neck, but not without being bit on its other foot. Regardless, the wound to its neck finally finishes off the Megalania as its carotid artery pumps its life force out. Utahraptor wins. However, it isn't a flawless victory, as the two wounds, despite being small, delivered venom, and these wounds, as well as the one from the Megalania's claws, continued to bleed as a result, eventually becoming infected as the Utahraptor succumbed to the wounds days later. Per the rules of this channel, the Utahraptor won. Its agility and intelligence were enough to overcome the Megalania's size and armor. However, just like how a small Komodo dragon bite can be fatal for large animals later on, small bite wounds and more substantial claw wound it received in the fight were enough to result in its death because of the envenomation. Several agonizing days later, I think the Megalania could win this fight quite easily. All it really needs to do is land a solid bite to the raptor, not a lower limb bite. But that didn't happen in this fight, resulting in the Utahraptor winning, even if it was only champion for a few short days. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Feel free to suggest any future fights. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next Savage Showdown.